Envy and Gratitude, Melanie Klein, audiobook, Part 2. Experience has taught me that the complexity of the fully grown personality can only be understood if we gain insight into the mind of the baby and follow up its development into later life. That is to say, analysis makes its way from adulthood to infancy and through intermediate stages back to adulthood, in a recurrent to and fro movement according to the prevalent transference situation. Throughout my work, I have attributed fundamental importance to the infant's first object relation, the relation to the mother's breast and to the mother, and have drawn the conclusion that if this primal object, which is introjected, takes root in the ego with relative security, the basis for a satisfactory development is laid. Innate factors contribute to this bond. Under the dominance of oral impulses, the breast is instinctively felt to be the source of nourishment and therefore, in a deeper sense, of life itself. The mental and physical closeness to the gratifying breast in some measure restores, if things go well, the lost prenatal unity with the mother and the feeling of security that goes with it. This largely depends on the infant's capacity to cathect sufficiently the breast or its symbolic representative, the bottle. In this way, the mother is turned into a loved object. It may well be that his having formed part of the mother in the prenatal state contributes to the infant's innate feeling that there exists outside him something that will give him all he needs and desires. The good breast is taken in and becomes part of the ego, and the infant who was first inside the mother now has the mother inside himself. While the prenatal state no doubt implies a feeling of unity and security, how far this state is undisturbed must depend on the psychological and physical condition of the mother, and possibly even on certain still unexplored factors in the unborn infant. We might, therefore, consider the universal longing for the prenatal state also partly as an expression or the urge for idealization. If we investigate this longing in the light of idealization, we find that one of its sources is the strong, persecutory anxiety stirred up by birth. We might speculate that this first form of anxiety possibly extends to the unborn infant's unpleasant experiences, which together with the feeling of security in the womb foreshadows the double relation to the mother, the good and the bad breast. External circumstances play a vital part in the initial relation to the breast. If birth has been difficult, and in particular if it results in complications such as lack of oxygen, a disturbance in the adaptation to the external world occurs, and the relation to the breast starts at a great disadvantage. In such cases, the baby's ability to experience new sources of gratification is impaired, and in consequence, he cannot sufficiently internalize a really good primal object. Therefore, whether or not the child is adequately fed and mothered, whether the mother fully enjoys the care of the child or is anxious and has psychological difficulties over feeding, All these factors influence the infant's capacity to accept the milk with enjoyment and to internalize the good breast. An element of frustration by the breast is bound to enter into the infant's earliest relation to it, because even a happy feeding situation cannot altogether replace the prenatal unity with the mother. Also, the infant's longing for an inexhaustible and ever-present breast stems by no means only from craving for food and from libidinal desires. For the urge, even in the earliest stages, to get constant evidence of the mother's love is fundamentally rooted in anxiety. The struggle between life and death instincts and the ensuing threat of annihilation of the self and of the object by destructive impulses are fundamental factors in the infant's initial relation to the mother. For his desires imply that the breast and soon the mother should do away with these destructive impulses and the pain of persecutory anxiety. Together with happy experiences, unavoidable grievances reinforce the innate conflict between love and hate. In fact, basically between life and death instincts, and result in the feeling that a good and a bad breast exist. As a consequence, early emotional life is characterized by a sense of losing and regaining the good object. In speaking of an innate conflict between love and hate, I am implying that the capacity for both love and for destructive impulses is to some extent constitutional, though varying individually in strength and interacting from the beginning with external conditions. I have repeatedly put forward the hypothesis that the primal good object, the mother's breast, forms the core of the ego and vitally contributes to its growth, and have often described how the infant feels that he concretely internalizes the breast and the milk it gives. Also, there is in his mind already some indefinite connection between the breast and other parts and aspects of the mother. I would not assume that the breast is to him merely a physical object. The whole of his instinctual desires and his unconscious fantasies imbue the breast with qualities going far beyond the actual nourishment it affords. We find in the analysis of our patients that the breast is in its good aspect, is the prototype of maternal goodness, inexhaustible patience and generosity, as well as of creativeness. It is these fantasies and instinctual needs that so enrich the primal object that it remains the foundation for hope, trust, and belief in goodness.